Again, I want to keep this not too long, so I'm going to just give you the headline, but I link to it. You can read the whole article. I'll give you a summary, which is really very simple. But here's this headline from USA Today, no less. Quote, "The audit is the great awakening," unquote, how QAnon lives on in Arizona's election audit. You read that article, it's very, very long article. Very long article. Not one fact in that whole article about the audit, about what's happening in the audit. Just interviews with QAnon people, conspiracy theorists. Well, you can see the image that they put with this article. Not an image of the, I mean, if we're talking about the Arizona election audit, I would think that the photo would be of the arena where the audit is being done. But no, these are people outside. There are, just as there are on the left, Exhibit A, BLM, Black Lives Matter, Exhibit B, Antifa, Exhibit C with Ilhan Omar, Exhibit D, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the quote-unquote squad, crazies on both sides. I mean, that's fair to say, but they're a minority in both parties, and that's all this person is writing about. He's just trying to discredit the audit. You read the article, and that is as clear as day, and here's another claim that Scott can debunk for the author of this article and for the two authors of the article that I was just citing, that none of them, not one of those three people, I said that the arena where they're doing the auditing in Maricopa County, they allow tours. You can go there. There have been several tours already. If a reporter wants to tour with Ken Bennett, the liaison for the audit between the people conducting the audit and the Senate and election officials, or the CEO, I would think that would be an obvious interview, the CEO of Cyber Ninjas, confront him with these accusations that I've been detailing all along today, and let him reply. Isn't that standard journalism? When you say something about somebody, you contact them for their response, and if they don't respond, then you say calls to Gene Schwimmer were not returned as of press time, something like that. My claim is they made no such attempt. They made no such attempt to contact anybody in an official capacity, number one. Number two, they made no attempt to tour the facility to actually see what's going on there, because they want to it's just like Kamala Harris refusing to visit the border, because if she did, then her narrative would fail, because she would see what's actually going on. Same thing, remember, 9 cameras, 24/7, so another, if I may, conspiracy theory is that the workers have black and blue pens, and then they're marking up the ballots and changing the ballots. You can see that's not happening. The ballots are on easels. You can see that they have tally sheets. They're marking tally sheets. They have a red pen and a green pen, as the audit procedures really, completely transparently say. But here's my challenge to Scott. You've got the video. Find the video of somebody marking up a ballot with a blue pen or a black pen. Okay, so that's another challenge. If not, then that's a theory that it's not a theory. It's a fact that they are not marking up ballots. They are not mishandling ballots. And there are others that I could mention, but we've got to deal with these with the Fulton County ballot audit now. So now we get to this audit that supposedly is settled science, to use a liberal term. Georgia audit finds 99.99% signature accuracy rate in county Trump contested. So it says right in the headline, signature accuracy. That's all they did was check signatures. Nothing else. No examinations of the ballots. And I have to digress because I forgot to mention about the UV, the ultraviolet lights. One of the things they're looking for is folds in the ballot. I'll get into that in more detail. But the article, the two articles that I just cited, neither of them says what they're looking for or why they're looking for folds in the ballot. So that's the main point that I want to get to, which I will in a moment, I think, as soon as I finish this. Georgia audit finds 99.99% signature accuracy rate. And that's, again, rate in county Trump contested, not accuracy rate, because Georgia has once again shot down President Donald Trump's allegations of widespread voter fraud. And notice they don't have to say, you don't have to say baseless allegations, just say allegations of voter fraud after a signature match audit in Cobb County. And that's not Fulton County, by the way, we're talking about Cobb County. I didn't even realize that till now. So they're citing Cobb County, at least some people are. I don't know if Scott is, but it's only a signature match. That's all they did. They didn't check anything beyond matching signatures. And I will just add something very obvious, that if somebody takes a signature from, say, a dead voter and duplicates that signature and then Xeroxes 20 of those, then of course all 20 are going to match if they were photocopied. So you see the ridiculousness of just sticking with that and going no farther. But Cobb County found its elections department had a, quote, 99.99% accuracy rate in performing correct signature verification procedures. Again, only checked signatures. Only 2 ballots had mismatched signatures out of the 15,118 ballots reviewed. So 15,118 ballots, looking only at the signatures out of, here's the correct figure, out of 524,659 ballots cast. And notice they don't categorize the ballots. Suppose, for all we know, they could all be in-person ballots. What are the odds that somebody could get a name out of an obituary, somebody who died, and then go to vote in person and show a fake ID with a signature or sign? Where I vote, you have to sign your name next to a book that has a photocopy of your signature when you register to vote. What are the odds that somebody could get a name out of an obituary and then just go to a polling place and sign without having ever seen the dead person's signature, sign, and the signatures would match? So you see, only a complete fool would do something like that. So if you're talking, you would expect all the signatures to match if you're talking about in-person voting. Absentee voting, different story, but they don't say. We have to remember that in Maricopa County, they're doing all the ballots, and they are noting which are absentee ballots, which are in-person ballots, because they are looking for folds in absentee ballots, which neither of those 2 articles I cited even mentions. They just want to talk about crazy QAnon people because that supports their narrative. If it doesn't support their narrative, they just don't report it. So now, let's go to Fulton County. I said that this Judge Brian Amaro has ordered this audit. So here's an example of proper reporting, how to do it. What these reporters are not doing, this reporter is doing. This is the last article, but it's a lengthy one. This is what I mean about this article, or this vlog being a long one. Why a judge has Georgia vote fraud on his mind. Quote, pristine, unquote, Biden ballots that looked Xeroxed. Here's the story, and we'll go in. This is great detail. Pay attention. When Fulton County, Georgia poll manager Susie Voiles, so you have a name, poll manager Susie Voiles, and I heard of her, by the way. I've said in past vlogs that I have a home office. I had YouTube on all day. They were broadcasting the hearings. I saw and heard Susie Voiles, so I can verify this personally. Saw it and heard it, and you can too. Just go on to YouTube. I'm sure the video is still there. When Fulton County, Georgia poll manager Susie Voiles sorted through a large stack of mail-in ballots last November, she noticed an alarmingly odd pattern of uniformity in the markings for Joseph R. Biden. One after another, the absentee votes contained perfectly filled in ovals for Biden, except that each of the darkened bubbles featured an identical white void inside them in the shape of a tiny crescent, indicating they'd been marked with toner ink instead of a pen or pencil. Adding to suspicions, he noticed that all of the ballots were printed on different stock paper than the others she personally handled, as part of a statewide hand recount of the razor-thin November 3rd presidential election. And none was folded or creased, as she typically observed in mail-in ballots that had been removed from envelopes. In short, the Biden votes looked like they'd been duplicated by a copying machine. Quote, all of them were strangely pristine, unquote, said Voiles, who said she'd never seen anything like it in her 20 years monitoring elections in Fulton County, which includes much of Atlanta. So she's got 20 years of experience. Keep that in mind. And this is what she says with her 20 years of experience. Looks like photocopied ballots. And she wasn't alone. At least 3 other poll workers observed the same thing in stacks of absentee ballots for Biden. See, all absentee ballots. So if you're looking at in-person ballots, it's really not relevant. Absentee ballots for Biden processed by the county, and they have joined Voiles in, get this, swearing under penalty of perjury that they looked fake. Now, another challenge for Scott and others who want to dispute. Show me, well, never mind 3. Give me 1 poll worker who looked at the same ballots that Susie Voiles and these other 3, but Susie Voiles with 20 years of experience, and that they saw nothing wrong with the ballots. If she's wrong, then produce a witness who says the opposite. Okay, if you can't, then I guess the second debunking is, how do you debunk somebody with 20 years of experience without looking at the ballots to verify whether she's telling the truth? And, well, we'll get to that more in a second, but we have the other witnesses to talk about. So now election watchdogs have used their affidavits to help convince a state judge to unseal all of the 147,000 mail-in ballots counted in Fulton and allow a closer inspection of the suspicious Biden ballots for evidence of counterfeiting, which the Fulton County Audit, by their admission, did not do. They only looked at signatures. They only matched signatures. They did not look, for instance, on whether they didn't look at the ovals filled in on the ballots, let alone see if they were identical or not. So here we go, Biden ballots for evidence of counterfeiting. They argue that potentially tens of thousands may have been manufactured in a race that Biden won by just 12,000 votes, thanks to a late surge of mail-in ballots counted after election monitors were shooed from State Farm Arena in Atlanta. That's another claim that I invite people to debunk. Debunk the notion or the statement in this article that there was a late surge of mail-in ballots and that they were counted after election monitors were shooed away from the arena. I think it happened. I am sure it happened. I saw a video of it being done, but debunk that. Okay, debunk that and say that it didn't happen. He and other petitioners were ordered to meet at the warehouse May 28 to settle the terms of the inspection of the absentee ballots. But the day before, just the day before the scheduled meeting, the county filed a flurry of motions to dismiss the case, delaying the inspection indefinitely. So the question again, why? Why did they do that? And note that the judge was ordering both sides to appear at the same time together to settle the terms of the inspection. So with the full, it's not a matter of some outside group inspecting these ballots, these 147,000 ballots. It's with the participation, the equal participation of both parties under the supervision of a judge. So again, the same question, especially in this case, if Democrats have nothing to hide, especially in this case, if the process is to be supervised by a judge, if both parties are invited to participate, equal participation, supervised by a judge, and if they can't agree, I assume that the judge would decide, and about that judge more in a moment. But we'll go on here. Quote, this is nothing more than a circus that's been put on by those who promote the, quote, big lie, unquote, quote, that Trump won the election, said Rob Pitts, the Democratic chairman of the Fulton County Board of Commissioners. Quote, where does it end? The votes have been counted. The elections have been certified. It's over, unquote. quote, but again, they just say stuff. This is what they just ridicule the very idea of having the audit. They don't discuss details. So now we get into some details here. But Judge Amaro, who federal elections record show is a Democratic donor. So this judge is a Democrat. Either that or he's a Republican who donates to Democrats. Anyways, he's not some conservative Republican right-winger. Judge Amaro, who federal election records show is a Democratic donor, felt compelled to unseal the ballots for a forensics review, which was not done before. Signature verification of 18,000 of 500, what was it, 524, whatever it was, a little over 500,000 ballots, only 18,000, just looking at signatures. This is why he felt, this judge, this Democratic doning judge, felt compelled to unseal the ballots for a forensics review after reading the sworn affidavits. Again, sworn affidavits under penalty of perjury. So where are the rebuttal affidavits? That's another challenge. Where are the rebuttal affidavits sworn under penalty of perjury? Where are those? After the judge felt compelled, after reading the sworn affidavits under penalty of perjury submitted by election monitors, here are, pay attention to this, especially those who want to do some debunking, here are the key witnesses in the case. Susie Voiles, whom I mentioned a moment ago, Susie Voiles, a veteran Fulton poll manager who audited the November 14 recount at Georgia World Congress Center, testified she examined several stacks of ballots of about 100 ballots each from a cardboard box marked, quote, box number 5, absentee, batch numbers 28 to 36, unquote. She said these ballots, quote, came from the ballot drop boxes that had been placed throughout Fulton County. So these are from those unsupervised drop boxes. But note what she says, how specific she is. Box number 5, absentee, batch numbers 28 to 36. So here is my challenge. Not talking about a full forensic audit of all the ballots or even 18,000 ballots. I don't know how many are in these boxes, but a specific box. Box number 5, absentee, batch numbers 2836. Any problem with looking at that box? That's the box she testified about under oath, penalty of perjury. Just open that one box. How could anybody, this is the explanation or an explanation among many that I'm looking for, what possible objection could there be to just open that one box? And if she turns out to be right, what possible objection could there be to doing a full forensic audit? Well, there couldn't be any. That's why I am guessing they don't want to open that box, that one box. Susie Voiles, poll manager, quote, one batch stood out. It was pristine, unquote. Quote, most of the ballots had already been handled. They had been written on by people and the edges were worn. They showed obvious use, unquote, she wrote in her November 17 affidavit, sworn again under penalty of perjury. Quote, however, one batch stood out. It was pristine. There was a difference in the texture of the paper, unquote, and after 20 years of experience, I would think she would know. And these mail-in ballots hadn't been folded even though they ostensibly had been removed from envelopes. And let me just raise one point that the debunkers raise, that sometimes a ballot can't be read by a machine and then it has to be corrected after the fact so that it can be fed into the scanner and read. But there are very strict rules about that because the ballots are numbered and you have to keep the original ballot with the redone ballot precisely to ensure that something doesn't get, that there's not a false additional vote, that the same ballot doesn't get later voted twice. So no indication of that having been done, but even then, as many as she seems to have seen in just that one box, a little unusual, I would think, unusual enough. Again, she could be wrong. She could be wrong, but how do you know if you don't open the box and look, and why not open the box and look? And here's another point. All but 3 of the 110 ballots in the bundle, which had been labeled, quote, State Farm Arena, unquote. That's the place where the boxes, suitcases, the official, legitimate ballot boxes were pulled out from where they were hidden under a table with a tablecloth over. All but 3 of the 110 ballots in the bundle, which had been labeled State Farm Arena, were marked for Biden and appeared to be, quote, identical ballots, unquote. The most, quote, alarming peculiarity, unquote, was the identically marked ovals next to Biden's name. In every ballot, quote, the bubble next to Joseph R. Biden, unquote, had a slight white eclipse in the bubble, unquote, she said, leading her, with her 20 years of experience, to believe that the batch of 107 Biden ballots had been, quote, copied, unquote, from a single ballot. The void she and other auditors witnessed in the exact same spot of the oval filled in on 107 ballots for Biden, quote, was alarming to us. Every single bubble was precisely alike. I had never seen that before in 20 years, unquote, of election monitoring. But when she and other recount workers raised concerns with county election officials, quote, we were told not to worry about it, unquote, she said. Quote, they seemed uninterested in the integrity of the ballots, unquote, as Democrats continue to be today. They're just not interested, and they just said, don't worry about it. And that's what they're saying to this day. Just don't worry about it. It's conspiracy theory, QAnon. Just don't worry about it. Never mind what 4 experienced election poll managers, one that we know has at least 20 years of experience. Who cares what they say? And here's another little point. After Voiles later blew the whistle in affidavits, sworn again under penalty of perjury, and state election hearings, which I personally witnessed, heard on YouTube, she was fired as a poll manager by the Fulton County Department of Elections. Quote, I got the boot for speaking the truth, unquote. And that's Susie Voiles. She got fired. She blew the whistle. I thought Democrats were against that sort of thing. At least they were when there was a whistleblower claiming that there was a quid pro when offered or proffered when Donald Trump spoke to the president of Ukraine. I guess times change. I guess you have to protect some whistleblowers, others not. I guess you can just fire, the ones you think should be fired, and don't even reveal the identity of those that the Democratic ones, put it that way. Okay, next witness. There were more. It's not just her, remember. Robin Hall, a certified Fulton County recount observer, also testified under oath, penalty of perjury. She witnessed a number of boxes of absentee ballots marked, quote, 100% for Biden, unquote. We don't have time for a statistics course, but I'll just mention that I had probability and statistics in college. I was for a while a mechanical engineering student. 100% for Biden. If that doesn't warrant at least a look, well, that's my challenge for Scott and others. Give me several examples of a candidate winning anything, 100% of the vote. Even Bashar Assad in Syria, he only got 95% of the vote. If you follow that story, for which Iran, the Ayatollah of Iran, congratulated him, but even he got only 95%. I think Saddam Hussein, the most ever he got was 99%, but Joe Biden got 100%. According to what this certified Fulton County recount observer, Robin Hall, said. She stated, quote, they did not look like a person had filled this out at home. All of them looked alike, unquote. Next, Judy Aub, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, A-U-B-E, Aub or Aube, I'm not sure, Aubie, also worked at the World Congress Center on November 14, where she observed the same thing, quote, suspicious batches, unquote, of mail-in ballots for Biden whose markings appeared identical as if they had been duplicated by a machine and not filled out by a voter at home. And next, or the final of these four, Barbara Hartman, another election official auditor, also doubted the authenticity of absentee ballots she handled that she said were never folded as would normally be the case for ballots returned in an envelope by mail or dropped in a box. Quote, the absentee ballots looked as though they had just come from a fresh stack, unquote. She swore, again under penalty of perjury, in her affidavit. Quote, I could not observe any creases in the ballots, and it did not seem like they were folded and put into envelopes or mailed out, unquote. Also, quote, the majority of the mail-in ballots that I reviewed contained suspicious black, perfectly bubbled markings for Biden, unquote, Hartman stated, adding that, quote, they looked as if they were stamped, unquote. The veteran, again, veteran poll watchers found no plausible explanation for the anomalies other than possible fraud. So that's my next challenge to Scott and the others. These veteran poll watchers found no plausible explanation for the anomalies other than possible fraud. So either these veteran poll watchers, four of them, and that's not to speak of the, I believe at least 100 other witnesses in various states that I heard, again, working in my home office with YouTube on as I worked. But stick with these four. Either they're lying under oath, penalty of perjury, or what they saw is what exists. What they saw is true, and they have no plausible explanation, these veteran poll watchers. So that would be my next challenge. What is Scott and others who agree with him, what is their explanation for, if this turns out to be accurate, for all these identically marked ballots? If it's not fraud, what is it? And whatever it is, should they have been counted, and why? And getting back to the point I made earlier, however, election officials have offered an explanation for why the mail-in ballots examined in the stacks did not have folds or creases. They say ballots are sometimes copied onto other paper when they are too damaged to be fed through one of the scanning machines during tabulation. The mailed ballots can be torn or crumpled by postal workers during delivery or by poll workers while opening them and removing them from envelopes, which could prevent the machines from reading them. But again, when that happens, the original ballots have to be accounted for. They have to be produced, and if they're not, then, well, that also wouldn't explain why they're identical, why the ovals are identical, and also are the duplicated. If they're to be read by the same machine, I would imagine would be on the same kind of ballot paper. So you see, it doesn't explain. And then there's just the sheer number, hundreds. I mean, come on. But that's what you have to believe. That's what you have to believe. And that's not all, because there were similar anomalies reported in other counties. Carlos E. Silva declared in a November 17 affidavit, again sworn under oath, penalty of perjury, that he observed a similar, quote, perfect black bubble, unquote, in absentee ballots for Biden during the recount he worked on in DeKalb County. And while overseeing the Cobb County recount, he swore he, quote, observed absentee ballots being reviewed with the same perfect bubble that I had seen the night before in DeKalb. All of these ballots had the same characteristics. They were all for Biden and had the same perfect bubble, unquote. And this is in multiple, at least two different counties. We're not even talking the same county anymore. And, added Silva, a registered Democrat, okay? This is a Democrat. And I will just add, there seems to be a lot of Democratic witnesses, and we have a Democratic judge. For conspiracy theory by Republicans, that sure is a lot of Democrats. Maybe Scott has an explanation for that. Quote, there were thousands of mail-in ballots that just had the perfect bubble mark for Biden and no other markings in the rest of the ballot, unquote. In other words, perfect ovals filled in for Biden and no other candidate filled in at all. That would make sense, because you can work faster if you're just filling in. If all you care about is the presidential election, why bother filling out the rest? That was a point that Giuliani made, actually, in one of the hearings that were held before these various state senates. Oh, and there's more. Another one. Another registered Democrat, Mayor O'Mara testified that while monitoring the Cobb County recount, she noticed that, quote, hundreds of these ballots seemed impeccable with no folds or creases. The bubble selections were perfectly made, and all 100%, all happened to be selections for Biden, unquote, which is my other challenge for Scott and others who want to support the same argument that he does. Why these mistakes in these filled-in ballots and these ballots that supposedly misfed into the scanners and had to be duplicated even though the original ballots aren't accounted for? All Biden votes, all Biden votes. How does that happen? All for Biden. Explain that. How is that? That's quite a coincidence. But here is my main point now. It was a long vlog. I appreciate everybody sticking with me. But here is the main point, because going back to the second of those two articles I quoted in the beginning, or the second one, I gave you the headline. I didn't read the whole article. Again, you can read the whole article. But this thing about conspiracy, well, first of all, if it's been debunked, well, that's my... How do you claim it's debunked when a judge, a Democratic judge, a judge with a record of contributing to Democrats and witnesses who are registered Democrats, how do you say that this has been debunked on just verifying signatures on 18,000 ballots of 500,000? I don't see how you justify it. So that is my challenge. I do not. I guess we could argue you consider that debunked. You know, what witnesses say doesn't matter. And that is the real, final, main nail in the coffin point, that this is not some conspiracy theory. This is not a Republican judge hearing outright lies or ridiculous stories and then saying, well, I want to authorize a fishing expedition. No, based on witnesses. These are experienced witnesses, and I will again add that I worked in my home office, had YouTube on, heard all the hearings, and there were numerous experts statistical experts and computer experts testifying that you generally have a curve. You generally have what they call a regression chart. I won't get into the details, but you might see like a straight line, a bunch of dots going up from left to right, or from right going across the chart, and then you have a straight line going through it, and so you have the dots varying a bit from that main line, but very close. When you have an outlier, one that's far away, that's to a statistician, that sets off an alarm, because that shouldn't be happening. And these experts cited numerous cases. But again, I will stand by what I said. Nothing has been debunked in Fulton County, has not been debunked. It's just something that, again, to use Scott's phrase, it's just third-party stuff that they say over and over. They don't bother to, in the case of Maricopa County, they had the chance. They could have participated in it from the very beginning and agreed how the audit would be conducted. But they didn't. Again, for the same reason that Biden and Harris don't want to go to the border, because they can't make up stories about what's happening on the border after they actually see what's happening on the border. And similarly, nobody can claim that claim about election fraud has been debunked if you've seen the actual ballots, or if the actual ballots have been published, promulgated, the whole world has seen them, and the results are known, and the results do not support quote-unquote debunking, which is precisely why our Democratic friends are fighting so hard to prevent that from happening. They do not want anybody to see those ballots, and their behavior tells me that it doesn't tell me that they know that something isn't kosher. It tells me, though, that they suspect that something may not be kosher. And as I've said in the past, wait for the facts. And finally, let me be perfectly clear, in case I created a mistaken impression in this vlog, that I am not contesting the results in Fulton County, Georgia, or Maricopa County, Arizona. I am not saying that either of those elections was wrongly decided. I am saying that people who say that the claim that both of those elections were decided correctly, they can't say that either. Nothing has been debunked. That's all I am saying. Nothing has been debunked, and therefore we should all wait for the facts. That's what I've said repeatedly all along. Wait for the facts. Let the audits go forward, which they are going to do anyways, and then you can contest the results. If you think the audit was done incorrectly, if you think this one in Fulton County, that's to be done under the supervision of a judge, if you think, and the agreement of the two parties, if both parties participate, if they're willing to participate. But if you think the judge made a mistake, if you think what the parties agreed to was wrong, you can say so at that time. You can look at I'm sure the results will be published, not just, well, this has been my problem all along with the Fulton County audit. They just say, well, we looked and everything is okay. They don't show their work. Whereas in Maricopa County, we'll see how it turns out. I can't predict how it will turn out, but I am confident from having watched it on these 9 cameras, and there are also cameras over each individual table. They know that, well, Scott should be happy about this. If that audit is fraudulent in some way or was, they've given you ample means to prove it. They've made it very easy for you. All you have to do is pull up the camera, show the footage, show what was done wrongly or where the fraud is. So they're making it easy for you, and that gives me confidence that whatever the results are, and again, I am not predicting the results, but I'm predicting that the results will be accurate, and that we should all accept the results and then just let the chips fall where they may, and just go on from there and act accordingly, depending on what the results were. But neither side should presume the facts, and I would say that is especially true of Democrats. Remember at the very beginning of this vlog, all the instances, 11 I cited, where they were wrong, 8 of which the liberal media had to admit they were wrong. And you know what? I just thought of another one, so I'll end on this. Babylon Bee. There's a website called Babylon Bee. They are a conservative satire site. The New York Times, some reporter did a story and said that Babylon Bee, sometimes they disseminate misinformation by calling it satire. Under the rubric of satire, they actually disseminate false information, misinformation. Babylon Bee sued the New York Times, and at first they hemmed and hawed, tried to walk it back. I'm recording this on Monday. This morning it was reported that the Times admitted their error, that the Babylon Bee is a satire site. They do not disseminate misinformation. They are not finding a sneaky way to disseminate misinformation. They don't lie. It's a satire site. So now we have 9 examples of the media having to admit that something they said was true was false. And that's it for today. It looks like I was right when I said at the beginning that this would be a long vlog. Don't know till I edit whether this will turn out to be 1 part or 2 parts. But whatever it turns out to be, I appreciate everybody stopping by and spending some time with me. If you could also give me a thumbs up if you like this vlog, that would really be great. If you have any comments or any debunking, the comment section below the vlog where you can put it, and please cite your source. Okay, and what else can I say? Oh, well, if you got questions, suggestions for future topics, that also can go in the comments section. You could subscribe. I love getting new subscribers. You can visit my other channels, my hot dog recipe channel, my music channel. I'm going to have a new song up probably within the next few days, pretty soon. And I guess that's it, except to say that I already said that. I'll say it again. I really appreciate the time that you spend with me. I'm happy to see all of you. I would love to see all of you again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.